Hey everybody, it's Josh Alexander with Orange County Housing Market News. If you are a returning subscriber, thank you again for your continued support. I really do appreciate it. If this is the first time you're tuning into the show, this show is all about Orange County real estate. So if you're thinking of buying or selling a home in Orange County or anywhere in Southern California really, this is a great place to see what's going on in the market, get some tricks and tips, so that way when you are ready to enter the market, you know what to expect and you can hit the ground running. So if you haven't already, please hit that like and subscribe button, or if you're watching this on YouTube, also hit that bell button below. That way you're notified every time a new episode comes out. So on today's episode, I'm going to be going over my market predictions for July. So I'm going to talk about what's been happening over the last couple weeks, go over some of the news stories you might be seeing in the news, as well as go over what should be happening over the next few weeks as we get into July, further and further into summer. So let's go ahead and get into it. So if you've stepped outside anytime in the last couple weeks, you definitely know that summer is in full swing right now. So what does that mean for the housing market? Well, if we take a look back at what's been happening over the last couple weeks, the trend is still continuing where we're starting to see demand go down and supply go up. So over the last 2 weeks specifically, we've seen supply go up by 8%, which is definitely the largest increase we've seen since the beginning of the year. And we've also seen demand drop by 5% at the same time. So that might worry some people. You might be reading some things in the news saying that, oh no, the bubble is about to burst. We're seeing demand finally start going down, supply is going up. Well, this is typical. It happens every single summer, so it's nothing to be alarmed about. People that are trying to buy houses are now fully in summertime, which means they're going on vacations, they're going to the beach, they're distracted by friends and family, and number one priority is no longer looking for homes. So you'd see that demand go down every single summer. So I've been on 2 vacations myself, especially this year when people are really eager to get out of the house now that restrictions have been lifted. A lot of home buyers are just getting out and they're not concerned about buying a home right now. So you're going to see that demand continue to decrease as we go through the rest of summer as well. And on the supply side, a lot of home sellers were waiting to get the kids out of school before they put their house on the market, and that way they didn't have to deal with the distraction of school as well as selling a house at the same time. So you see those homes coming on the market at a faster rate right now, and because demand has gone down, more and more of those homes are staying on the market for a little bit longer, which is why you start seeing that supply increase. Again, this is completely typical. It's nothing to be alarmed about. It's just a typical housing cycle that you see during the summertime. Okay, so how do these trends that are developing in June impact the housing market as we go forward into July as well as the rest of summer? Well, we'll take a look at that towards the end, but first I wanted to bring this up because it's been in the news a lot recently, and it's something that I've talked about on previous episodes and I've debunked a few times, but I want to bring it up again with fresh data because it's something that a lot of people are concerned about and a lot of people are reading about in the news, and that is the foreclosure and the eviction crisis. So I want to talk about some of the actual data coming out to really show you that there's not any giant wave of foreclosures that are about to hit the market and crash everything. It's just really not in the cards. So I want to go over first the supply side of things, and then the demand side of things, as well as what the government as well as California have been doing in the background to really prevent this from happening and becoming a giant issue like what happened last time during the housing crisis. So let's look at the supply side of things first. So obviously, compared to where we are today, we would need a 180-degree shift on both supply and demand in the housing market to really make any kind of impact and put us in a position where you're going to see a housing crash. So on the supply side of things, there's 2 main reasons you're really not going to see a flood of inventory hitting the market anytime soon. So the first one being that both on the foreclosure and on the eviction side, there's just not going to be enough of them to really make any kind of significant dent in the housing supply shortage we see right now to be able to change the market. So if you've been reading the news and watching it recently, there's a couple things that the government as well as California has been doing on top of that to make sure that we are not going to have issues with a bunch of houses flooding the market at the same time. So on the eviction side of things, it was just announced that they are now extending it once again to the end of September. And one of the main reasons they're doing this is because they want to be able to get this $5.2 billion that's been allocated to help out with rental assistance to renters, to the landlords, to be able to cover them and make them whole on a lot of these people that have been missing payments. So anybody that's making 80% or less of the median income of the area that they're renting property in and has paid at least 25% of the total rent due since the eviction ban has begun will be able to get these funds from this program to be able to pay back 100% of what they need to be able to make them whole again. So that's going to knock out a lot of evictions. And like I said, one of the reasons why they extended it one more time is so they have enough time to roll this out and get all the money out as much as possible, at least, to these people, so that way they can pay their rent and the landlords get made whole again, so that way they don't have to turn around and then be forced to sell their house because they weren't making any money on it and now they were behind on their mortgages. So that's going to help on the eviction side of things. And then on the foreclosure side of things, again, they keep delaying the foreclosures farther and farther down the road. So one thing to remember with foreclosures is that, one, not everybody went into foreclosure at the same time. Different people went in different months, which means they'll be exiting these programs different months. But two, the people that are exiting the program, the overwhelming majority of them right now are coming out with some kind of payment plan that they worked out with their loan provider to be able to continue to own their home, and either putting out the payments on the back end of their loan or restructuring their loan to make it longer, different interest rates, some way that enables them to keep their house and not have to go through the foreclosure issues. So there's just not any data showing there's going to be a giant wave of these foreclosed properties hitting the market. And the ones that do hit the market are going to be coming month after month after month, not in a giant wave. And by doing this, again, because inventory is so low right now, the market is going to be able to absorb these foreclosures that eventually happen. So the second reason supply is not going to be going up anytime soon to be able to lead to some kind of crisis with the housing market is that the current homeowners that are in good standing with their loans, they aren't leaving their house. So people are staying in their homes longer and longer every single year, and COVID has really just made that worse. So people don't want to move out of their house. A lot of homeowners who had a loan refinanced at a great rate, and now they don't want to move because rates have started to move up since the beginning of the year. They want to make sure they keep that low rate, keep the low property tax, so there's no incentive for them to move right now. And on top of that, they also have a giant amount of equity built up in their house because home values have gone up so much. So a lot of these homeowners that might have been motivated to move are now saying, hey, I've got $200,000 in my home equity right now. Maybe I'll take a little bit of that out, build an addition to the house, update my house, and I'll be happy again where I currently live and I don't have to move. Again, making them stay put and not wanting to get into the market, keeping supply low. And then on top of that, a lot of homeowners right now that I've talked to just don't want to move because they're scared that if they put their house on the market, they're not going to be able to find another place to live because of how crazy the market is and how low the inventory is right now. It's a vicious cycle that's mentally keeping some of these homeowners trapped and not putting their house on the market. And a lot of that has to do with just not being informed, especially in terms of the different protections you have as a homeowner when you're selling your house, to be able to go out, look for a new property, and if you can't find one, still being able to back out of escrow and not sell your house so you don't have to worry about not having a place to live. So I did an episode on that a few episodes back, so you can check that out if you want more information on how to safely buy and sell a home at the same time. But in general, a lot of people are scared that if they sell their house, they're not going to have some place to live and they're going to end up renting and then losing a bunch of money doing it that way, or not having any place to live at all and then being out of a home. So again, there's plenty of ways to avoid this, especially in this market right now when buyers are still willing to do almost anything to get into a house. Sellers have a lot of leverage on them to be able to structure the contract in a way that keeps everybody protected. So on the supply side of things, yes, there will be foreclosures. There will be some evictions that lead to foreclosures on properties down the line. But again, they're spaced out. The government has learned their lesson from what happened last time, and they're doing everything they can to make sure it doesn't happen again. And for now, it seems like all this is really working in terms of making sure that the foreclosures are not going to lead to any kind of housing crisis. And again, the foreclosures that do happen are really not going to be a problem for 2021. You're not really going to see any kind of significant impact on foreclosures until we get to mid-2022 all the way to 2023, because the foreclosure process takes a long time to go through, and a lot of protections have been put in place to make sure that the banks are doing everything possible to really try to find a way to work with homeowners so they don't have to go through that foreclosure process. So again, if you're banking on these foreclosures all of a sudden making this housing market into a housing bubble and crashing it, you're going to be sitting on the sidelines watching appreciation happen, watching interest rates go up, and asking yourself why you didn't purchase during this summer, when by the end of the year into next year, you're going to see home values go up, making it more and more unaffordable for you to get into a home, or paying more for the same home instead of what you're currently paying now. So now let's look at the demand side of things and why there's really no indication that demand is going to be going away anytime soon, especially to a point that's really going to impact the housing market in any significant way. So the first and most important one that's going to keep demand extremely high for the foreseeable future, you probably guessed it, is interest rates. So right now, interest rates are still hovering at all-time lows, right around that 3% mark. Yes, they've gone up since the beginning of the year. They started right around 2.65 at the beginning of this year. Right now, they're a little bit above 3, and yes, they're predicted to continue to rise for the remainder of the year, but we're not talking about 4 or 5% interest rates by the end of the year. We're talking maybe 3.5, 3.6 on the high side. Most housing economists aren't even predicting that high. So that alone is going to keep demand extremely strong for the foreseeable future. And on top of that, the Feds have said they are not raising their interest rates until at least 2023, based on all the data out there right now. So you can really be secure that you're not going to all of a sudden see a giant spike of interest rates happen anytime soon in the marketplace that is going to impact demand significantly. Now, on top of that, you also have the largest demographic patch in the United States right now that are reaching peak home buying years, and that's the millennials. So millennials have been getting married, they're starting to have kids, they want to get out of that one-bedroom apartment, they want to get out of their parents' house and find a place of their own. So between the years of 2020 and 2024, the largest patch of those millennials, again, the largest patch of any demographic in the United States right now, are going to be looking for homes to purchase. So that is going to keep demand at a pretty high baseline all the way through 2024 as well. Now, on top of that, one of the other unexpected outcomes of COVID is that people have a lot more in their savings accounts than they did at the beginning of COVID. So for buyers that maybe can afford a monthly payment of a mortgage but just couldn't get that down payment saved up, they've had over a year now where they're spending less money, able to put away more savings, and American savings accounts have never been higher. So that's going to lead to a lot of these people starting to purchase homes because they've been waiting to get that savings up to a point where they have enough for the down payment and closing costs, and a lot of people have done that over the last 12 months. So those three things are going to keep demand pretty strong for the foreseeable future, and there's really just no indication that demand's going to go away so quickly to have any kind of major impact on the housing market. So that's enough of talking about news articles. I can go on for an hour about all the different data and the different things I can show you. Again, showing you why we're not going to have any kind of housing crash anytime soon. I'll leave that for a different episode so I don't bore you. Let's go on to what I think is going to happen in the July market as well as going through the rest of the summer. So if you remember at the beginning of this episode, I talked about how demand has been going down significantly, supply is going up significantly, but again, that happens every single year. It's completely normal for this type of year in the housing market. So what do I expect to happen in July? The same thing. So we're going to see that trend accelerate. We're going to see more inventory hit the market. We're going to see demand continue to go down, and we're going to see the market shift a little bit further away from the insane once-in-a-lifetime seller's market to a normal hot seller's market where the sellers still are going to have a significant advantage, but you're going to start seeing appreciation slow down a little bit. You're going to start seeing that demand cool off a little bit. And although the trend of supply going up and demand going down has been happening for about 2 months now, myself as well as my colleagues really haven't seen an impact in the market until about 2 or 3 weeks ago. We're finally starting to see that when we place homes on the market, you're not getting 15 offers on the first day putting on the market anymore. You're maybe getting 3, 4, 5 offers on a typical home. So we're starting to see in the marketplace the impact on the supply and demand numbers and actually starting to see this slow down the market a little bit. Again, it's still a very hot seller's market. Getting 3 to 4 offers within the first week is still great for sellers. It's still going to be very easy to sell your home as long as you price it correctly. But it is slowing down to a more normal seller's market and will continue to go that way as we go through summer and even into fall, because that's traditionally what you're going to see happen as well. So what does that mean for buyers? Buyers, you're going to have more and more inventory to choose from finally as the summer goes on. So it's great news that you don't have to compete as much. You're going to have less offers on each home and have a better chance of being able to get into a home and at a better price than you might have been able to a few months ago when competing with 15, 20 offers on every home. On the downside, the longer you wait, appreciation is going to continue to happen and interest rates will continue to rise. So you don't want to wait too long. If you've been thinking about putting it off until the end of summer, I don't recommend that because appreciation is still happening week after week. One of the biggest issues we're having when we get homes into escrow is still getting that appraisal to come in at value. So it's something that you have to really consider. You really don't want to put anything on hold if you don't have to. Continue looking, try to get into a house now, because by the end of summer, by the end of this year, appreciation as well as interest rates are both rising and it's going to be harder for you to afford a home. Now on the seller side of things, yes, we're still in an extremely hot seller's market and it's going to be that way for the foreseeable future. However, you do need to know that the market is slowing down week by week. So if you've been thinking about placing your home on the market, especially if you're thinking about buying a house at the same time, you want to be able to take advantage of these extremely low interest rates because they will start rising. So right now, especially if you're trying to buy another home, is a great time to get your home on the market. If you're planning on selling your home and you don't need to purchase another home, maybe you can wait another month or two, but I caution you that the longer you wait, the more the market's going to slow down. So you need to make sure that you're pricing your home correctly, and it's going to become more and more important every single week that you have a very good idea of what the current market value for your home is. Because if you overprice your home, especially as we get into July and August, it's going to be harder for you to get full price offers. It's going to be harder to get interest on your home because you'll just have less buyers to choose from as the weeks and months go on. So just make sure that you're consulting with a realtor, make sure that you know the comparable sales in your neighborhood and that you're pricing it correctly. As long as you price it correctly, you should have no problem selling your home right now still in this market. But it is going to be something you have to really focus on going forward throughout the rest of the year to make sure you don't end up shooting yourself in the foot, placing it too high, and then having to reduce your price later. Because if you do that, time and time again, studies have showed you're going to end up getting less money for your house than if you just priced it correctly the first time. So it's very important that you price your house correctly when you place it on the market to make sure you're maximizing the value you're getting from your home and ultimately maximizing your profit on the back end. So I hope this information has been useful. Again, if you are finding it useful, please hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. If you have a friend or family member that might find this information useful, please share it as well. My goal is to make sure as many people as possible are informed about the market so that way they can make smart decisions when they decide to get into the housing market, whether they're buying or selling. So that's it for today's episode. Until next time, stay healthy, stay happy, and I'll see you later. Bye.